as we just arrive now, I'm going to do a short reading from Psalm 62, just to center us down a little bit, just to remind us that we're in a holy space, just to slow down our hearts and our breathing a little, and prepare ourselves to receive what God has for us this evening. I must just say thank you so much for all arriving. But there's so many distractions and things that demand our attention, and I think it's wonderful that we can just draw aside and do something of this nature. From Psalm 62. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Find rest, O my soul, in God alone. My hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. I'm going to hand over to Christine now, and she's going to take us through the welcoming prayer. I've been calling it the welcoming prayer, and it's actually welcoming prayer. And Christine, I'm very excited, and I'm so grateful that you're here with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for that beautiful, peaceful start to our evening. I don't know if people are going to be taking notes, but I just thought I would give you a little map of where I'm going tonight so that you can see it unfold when I'm speaking. We're going to start with the feet on the ground practice. It will connect us with Brenda's talk of November last year. She taught us that. I've heard of or read Eckhart Tolle augmented, which I will lead you through. So, and it's a wonderful practice for getting into the body, which is key to this practice of the welcome prayer. Then after that, then we'll go on. Secondly, there are two key words that I'd love you to keep in your mind. In centering prayer, we talk about our consent to the work of God as we're praying. And in this welcome prayer, we talk about surrender. Those two words are quite key. And the welcoming prayer brings into our practical day-by-day, minute-by-minute life what is happening in the centering prayer, while we let go of thoughts in our consent to God, when we welcome whatever is brought into us in the present moment, that is an extension really of our prayer. Then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about how the false self works, because that's key. It's quite a mechanical process. It's key because we go round and round from our false self into our consciousness and back into our false self. And this practice is meant to try and break that sort of mechanical cycle. So we'll talk about false self in action, and then the place where this cycle can be broken. And that is a nanosecond often. It's a very short little whisper of a moment. But it's a moment where if we can practice getting used to it, there is a possibility for spaciousness out of which we can react to the circumstances in a different way. And then I will teach you the actual practice of how we welcome the present moment, whatever that is. Now, I'm most indebted to Cynthia Bourgeot for her book, Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening. Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening. She has a chapter on welcoming, and I'm going to use that quite a lot. So that's where we're going. Let us start then by having our feet, and barefoot, if you can quickly whip off your shoes, barefoot, firmly and flat on the ground, as you do for when coming to center. Try to make sure that your vertebrae are all standing on top of each other beautifully. Your head is resting on the top, relaxed but alert. And I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to talk us through it. But when you practice, and it's worth practicing it, when you practice by yourself for 5 or 10 minutes, you can just take yourself through these stages. So we want to start with our feet and become aware of the underside of our feet, where each part of it touches the ground. We connected in this way with the electromagnetic force of the earth. We're grounded. Feel it in your heels and along the edge of your foot besides the instep, and then the ball of your foot, and feel each toe. Just relax. And sit there being aware of the underside of your feet, and just let's breathe deeply into our lungs and out through the mouth. Do 3 breaths like this. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Feeling your whole body going right down your legs and into your feet and into the earth. Breathe in and out. Now, where Eckhart Tolle has been so helpful to me is he has shown that we start with our feet by focusing right inside the feet, right into the flesh of our feet now, and get in touch with the buzz of energy that's there. Focus on it and wait a while so that you feel the vibration of energy in your feet. It may take a while. Don't be frustrated, just be relaxed and feel that energy. That is the energy, the Holy Spirit of the cosmos. That is us, part of the whole, the created universe. Just feel right into your feet, and feel the energy. Now, another point in the body where it's sometimes easier to feel this energy is your hands. So just feel that vibration coming up your legs and into your hands. Put your attention right into the flesh of your hands and feel the buzz of that energy. finding it difficult, you could hold your hands opposite each other and squeeze and draw back and squeeze that energy between your hands until you really feel it. Because this energy extends just beyond our body. So we squeeze and draw, and you feel the energy you're drawing back. Squeeze and draw back. Then just put your hands on your lap again. Now, holding your attention on that energy, come up your body and try to feel that energy coming up through the flesh and the bones of your body into your head, right at the top of your skull. And then let it sink again. It's like a wave down through your body. Feel it strongly in your hands, down your legs, and into your feet again. The bottom of your foot flat on the floor. Now we just spend a few moments, each of us, trying to do that wave, feeling into the feet, out through the legs, with a little boost from the hands, up through the body and into your head, and then back down again like a wave receding. Let's just sit here and try to do that wave for ourselves. Take your own time and do it however you'd like to, focusing inside your body. If it helps you, you can add the breath and come up from your feet with the in-breath and down through your body back to the floor with the out-breath. When you're ready, you can gently come back and open your eyes. So after Brenda taught us that feet on the ground meditation, it's a wonderful way of being present. A lot of people wrote or spoke to Linda and said, but we've got this in the welcome prayer, and true enough, we have. So this Zoom session is serving to remind us of this practice, and we can use it then in our lives and feel its transformative power. Surrender to whatever life is giving us right now, whether we like it or not. So this brings our centering prayer into the realm of daily life. And on top of that, it helps us to awaken in a way that we've not known before. I think you might remember that Thomas Keating says that one of the works of centering prayer he calls it to soften the hard pan of our emotional programs for happiness and help them slowly to come loose and to be let go of. So we're going to start with now looking at the false self. And if you could show us that diagram, please, Linda. Thank you very much. So don't worry about the top part of the diagram. We're focusing on the bottom part, and in particular, that triangle, that upside down triangle. These points of this triangle are what Thomas Keating calls the emotional programs for happiness. Power and control, esteem and affection, and the bottom that you might not be able to see is security and survival. We've all got these. They're built up through our childhood, and it's how we survive in the world. People are different, of course. So some of us have more of a power and control emotional program going on. Another person may have esteem and affection, and I think quite a lot of us have survival and security. And these are what helps us to survive in life, to live in life. What they do is they come out of our unconscious, and now we can move to the top left-hand side of the diagram, as attachments or aversions. Some examples of these are you can be attached to the idea of wanting always to be on time, being a very punctual person. You can be attached to liking your life to run in a routine way, and you hate being disturbed from it. You can be attached, if you're in the security and survival, attached, checking that all the doors are shut and locked properly at night. A power and control person would be the sort of person that plans every step of a trip or a holiday before you leave. You've got your maps, you've got the museum bookings done, and each day you know where you're going to sleep. Then such people, or part of all of us, needs to have that safely in place. If you're a security and survival company, you will have the up-to-datest security features in your home. You will have proper insurance, and you'll check it's working, and you'll have a good retirement plan. That's really important. You won't be the type that puts on a backpack and goes off to see the world with just a pocket full of money and not much else. People who are attached to esteem and affection be the sort of person who in church joins the feeding scheme to serve the poor. And that's what they really believe they're doing. But actually, underneath that, you want to be appreciated as a good person. That's the esteem and affection. Or you could be wanting to have control of the committee and some power in that way. Either of those two. And we have versions too, what I don't like. I don't like it done like this. I don't like that. And that, when we start listening to ourselves saying, I need to have my bag with a little torch in and my money and all my cards and a hanky and all those things, when you catch yourself with your attachments, or, oh, no, I don't like swimming unless it's the heat, the height of summer. Whatever it is, notice yourself, observe yourself with these attachments. But when we welcome life in the present moment, we are consenting or surrendering to whatever is happening now. Your bell is interrupting your centering prayer. The neighborhood dogs are going mad just when you're wanting to concentrate. Whatever is happening at the moment, and it often we feature the negative things, but it can also be, oh my, didn't I do that well? So I said this and so and so that. So you can be attached to the positive things too. So welcoming is a tool to extend the divine psychotherapy that's happening in centering prayer into the practice and the practical things of daily life, but it's also a tool for inner awakening, for noticing how I operate in the world, because it's peculiarly my way, and wake up to the fact that maybe I can change that, or I don't need to be attached to being strict or laughing it off or whatever I normally do. So what happens is these emotional programs assert themselves as attachments and aversions. And underneath those, usually we have values. It's called here the hidden agenda. Our values, what's important to me. And what happens is that something happens. I'll never forget when I was in a school meeting once, and the headmaster was preparing to ask me to take on another task. But he talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked about it without giving me a chance to say anything. And I knew that I couldn't do this task, mainly because I was too committed to evening meetings anyway. But this event built up such a head of steam in me of frustration and anger, and the fact that he wouldn't stop talking about it to give me a chance to speak, that when I did speak, I blurted out, I don't want to do that, which sounded terribly rude, and I was very embarrassed by it. But that's how our false self works. There is an event, we've got values that are being threatened, and we have this frustration building up in us. That's why we started with feet on the ground, so that we could get into the body, because that's an important part. At the same time, we've got tapes that go in our head, pre-recorded tapes. An internal dialogram number 7 says, because our emotions are now running so high, either with pride and joy at what our ego has achieved, or with anger or jealousy or frustration. And we say things like, how dare that woman take over the making of the soup, or whatever it is. And we have these little sayings that have been recorded time and again because our values have been attacked in some way. And what happens is that usually there's a bit of an explosion. We may leave the feeding scheme or whatever, never talk to that person again. You know what happens. We're in emotional turmoil, and then we fall back into our unconscious and just feed these childhood emotional programs for happiness. So they go on, they get energy. Now, what we want to do is to redirect this energy of number 6, the afflictive emotion, away from the frustration and into something which is more spacious, more healing. And Cynthia has a delightful expression that she uses often. We have to nip the frustration in the bud. Nip it in the bud before it gets a huge head of energy. And as soon as you can, that's when you can change the situation. It takes time. 5A is the place where the cycle can be broken. It takes time, so you have to keep practicing. You won't get it right initially, and you can't always do it right, and you can't always have the opportunity to go through this welcoming practice, because you may be having a flaming row with your boss or somebody, and it's inappropriate. Then you've got to wait for afterwards, sit down. You probably still got a cracking headache or a churning stomach, whatever way it's affecting your body. Then you give yourself to the welcoming prayer. So it can be used for pain, physical pain. You can use it for the negative emotions like anger, frustration, and also for the pride, the emotion, positive things, positive have happened to you, but you react in a way that's over the top, and you need to come and find some kind of equilibrium. So I said that we would talk about the false self, and then where it can be broken, and the fact that it's a very small window, 5A, where it can be broken. And now I'll tell you how it works. There are 3 stages. The first stage is called focus and sink in. And in many ways, this is the most important, because unless you do this properly, you're going to rush through the stages and it won't have the effect. So where in the body are you feeling the tension? What is your frustration doing? Is it in your head, in your tummy? The idea is to put your focus there, into the body. Try and really feel it. Attend to it there. And acknowledge the feeling. And this is where you have to stay present. Hold on to it. Don't get distracted. Don't say, and we'll start again another day. Stay with it. Don't analyze it. Don't judge it. Don't say, oh, there I go again. I've done that before so many times. Just stay with the feeling. I feel the whole of my insides churning around. I feel my head throbbing. I'm so tense, I could do something terrible. Feel the tension. So don't analyze it. Don't either disassociate from it. Often people who are brought up in families who do not allow anger to be expressed are very good at sweeping stuff under the carpet, make a quick joke and move on. But if you want to deal with it, you really have to come back into the body and feel it properly. It doesn't always happen just in one session. I had an experience the other day. I had to go back to it over 3 days to try and feel the feelings and go through this process. So once you've stayed there for a good long time and you've really understood the feeling in your body, then you can move on to stage 2. And stage 2 is welcoming it. And what you're welcoming is the feeling, not the overarching topic or subject. People make that mistake. Some people say, oh, how can I possibly welcome cancer? No, you can't. You're not expected to, but you're welcoming the fear you have of the journey of this cancer. So you're welcoming the fear. You're attending to that part that's there. So if you can try to imagine being hospitable to this situation, be giving it space, welcoming it with spaciousness. Don't run away from it, because if you do, it'll stay with you. And Cynthia tells a delightful story from Ursula Le Guin's book, novel, called, let me just look it up. There's something of Earth Sea. I want to tell you, because you might want to read it.
Earth Sea trilogy.
The Wizard of Earth Sea, yes, the Wizard of Earth Sea. Thank you. The Wizard of Earth in particular. In this book, there's a young wizard named Ged, and he is training to become a sorcerer. And one day he's horsing around with his friends, and by mistake, he conjures up a minor demon. And this demon proceeds to haunt him. This is the whole story. It haunts him throughout the book. And it grows in power there behind Ged. And Ged is so anxious about this that he runs away from it. He goes into the city. He goes in the narrow lanes and tries to run away with it. Eventually, he jumps onto a boat and thinks he'll get away from it like that. He really is terrified now. And then he swims and jumps into the sea off the boat until eventually he realizes that he needs to face it. And he turns round and embraces the demon, which just melts away. So that story is a very good example of how, when we've got this feeling, running away from it is not helpful. You must turn around and face it or feel it in your body. So this is the welcoming part, turning to face it, acknowledging it, feeling it. If you don't do the feeling, it'll come back down to 9 in your diagram and reinforce those programs for happiness, and they'll just get entrenched. So we need to break this cycle. And Cynthia talks about it as being quite mechanical. There's not too much thinking that goes on in it. Focus and sink in, that's very important. Stay with that feeling. Then when you're relaxed and you've felt it, welcome it. And you won't like that welcoming because it'll be against your values often. Welcome it. Realize that you're feeling full of pride because you've been complimented on something you did, instead of accepting it with equanimity. And then the third step is to let it go. Easier said than done. Don't do the letting go too quickly. You might need to go back to the beginning. Feel the feeling wherever it is, focus on it, and then welcome it. Open yourself to it. Don't run away. Don't resist. Don't have this brace position. Rather, you want an open, surrendered position to welcome it. And once you are able to let it go, hopefully you will notice a steadying within yourself and a feeling of equanimity. Linda, could you put the other slide up, please? The person who developed this welcoming practice was a woman by the name of Mary Rozovsky. She was a New Yorker, and she worked very closely with Thomas Keating and helped to refine this process. And she was always very determined that when you are letting go, you say these words. Cynthia says, you can do a shortened version. You can say, I let go. But Mary said, it's good to go through the stages. I let go of my desire for security and survival. I let go of my desire for esteem and affection. I let go of my desire for power and control. And this is the brilliant one. I let go of my desire to change the situation. That we always bring our minds to bear and think, well, I can make a plan, plan B, what are we going to do? I let go of that. So those words are worth learning, I think. And especially initially when you're sitting down to do this practice, that you sit down and you use these 4 lines as they are. And think what you're saying when you say my desire for security and survival. For survival in terms of this pandemic, security, what is my security? My desire for esteem and affection, all of these things we all want, and my desire for power and control. So those are the 3 stages of the welcome practice. Keep noticing myself saying Linda. But we could take time for questions and comments now, things that may be bothering you and I might be able to clarify. I'll try to if I can. If anyone would like to ask any questions.
Can we just speak up?
Yes, go.
It's Barbara here. Christine,
Hi, yes.
If you could say something about actually getting to a point of making it part of one's life. So to remember in the midst of a crisis that there is a welcoming practice is unlikely unless there's some way of practicing it regularly or what. I don't know if you have advice on that.
Thanks, Barbara. Yes, that's why I just love this feet on the ground practice, because it takes quite a while to get into being able to feel that vibration of energy. And I think if you were to sit and do that while you settle yourself for your centering prayer, you are going to be educating your awareness of your body. And I think that's quite a good start. But that is the trick. I think is remembering to do it in the situation, in the crisis. I think Cynthia's nip it in the bud is a useful little phrase to say to yourself. Otherwise, another thing Cynthia says is if you don't, then you'll just go over the waterfall. You barrel over with your anger and your whatever you do when you're in that situation. So nip it in the bud. Take a breath. I don't know. It's a difficult thing, and I think it just does take practice. Is that helpful?
Thank you.
But I think just the practice of that meditation, the feet on the ground, is a good place to start.
I also, I read a newsletter article, and the chap used to practice welcoming at the beginning of his centering prayer. So his centering prayer time in the morning was quite long. He would spend, as you say, sinking that focus and sink in and getting into his body.
Anyhow, I'm there.
Do you want to ask a question?
There's nothing there at the bottom that you have to do, right? Nothing here.
Participants.
Shirley, are you wanting to ask a question?
Oh. I think I made a mistake with the arrow. Thank you. I've just managed to get on, so I haven't heard very much. Okay, thank you.
All right. Sorry, Linda, can you go back to what you were saying?
It was just, he made a practice of welcoming every morning in his first sit. He would so he would focus and sink in. It was just part of his centering prayer, and then he would go into centering prayer and then lectio, whatever his practice was. Yeah.
It is difficult. Barbara asks a very pertinent question. It's very difficult to establish it, but it's worth being quite deliberate about doing that feet on the floor thing, or do it the way that this person in the newsletter suggested, Linda.
Hi.
Hello.
Can I say something? That we did the book, The 40-Day Practice, Welcoming Prayer, Consent on the Go.
Oh,
And
yes.
so you go slowly through it for 40 days.
Wow.
And we were a group together, not together, but just by WhatsApp or something. And it was copied from Contemplative Outreach, and we each got a copy. So that is worth looking into, because that really helped.
Yes, it interests me that I've just joined a new messaging service called Signal. And at the beginning, every second day, they'd ask me for my password just to reinforce it. And then the gap became longer. And I think this reinforcing is excellent that you're talking about. Do it for 40 days until you know it becomes entrenched as a practice. Yeah, thanks, Marty. That was useful.
Please repeat the name of that book.
Yes. Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening. Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening by Cynthia Bourgeau.
And also Marty's book that she recommended.
Oh, Marty's book, sorry.
It is the 40-day practice. Can I do that?
This one is available on Contemplative Outreach. I think it's a digital download.
Yes, exactly.
I will speak to Elizabeth about us. There we go. Someone has shared it in the chat. So it's there for you as well. If you know how to access the chat, there's a link. I think you pay $10 or something and can download it. Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Marty. That was a good one. Anything else? We all need to just go away and do it.
I think that's true. I think just having the awareness of the false self cycle is very helpful. And yeah, and just an awareness of these steps. So what you've shared tonight builds nicely on Brenda's talk. I was very sad I didn't actually record Brenda's talk properly. That was very unfortunate. Yeah, so yeah.
She was talking about mindfulness, and I think, Barbara asking how on earth one remembers when you're in the heat of it is very pertinent, because if you train yourself in mindfulness and slowing down and doing centering prayer, I think it all feeds into the same thing.
Christine. Hi,
Yes.
Christine.
Hello,
Marianne.
Marianne. Hi.
I agree with you with that graph where I think it's 5A where you said you have a split second. Because it truly is so, isn't it? I just think about it again. There you are, and a familiar thing happens, and you get irritated, and you know this is what you want to fight. This is what you want to control, not having this irritation every time such and such a thing happens. But if you wait too long before you exhale or in your mind know that this is a moment, the split second I have, and I'm going to, in this instance, I'm not going to go with the flow. I'm not going to reinforce this. I am going to welcome it. I am going to to focus and it will sink in. If you don't do it fast,
Yeah.
it's got
Awareness,
you.
awareness all.
It's very fast. It's something, your attention has to be there. Your intention has to be that you want to do it. And you have to immediately try and recognize it. When that little something, just warning sign comes, you have to do it. Otherwise, 5A passes fast.
Very quickly.
I find for myself.
Lovely to see you, Marianne. Yes, and you're absolutely right. I think it's only practice, and you'll get it wrong, and then you can go back and observe yourself, you know, because we always think we're right. I'm right, you know. Observe yourself, because maybe you weren't right, and maybe there needed to be more space.
I think another important thing is not judging how we feel.
Yes. Don't analyze or judge it. Yeah.
Are there any more questions or comments or observations or wisdom sharings?
I'm just thinking of somebody said to become more conscious, we have to overcome our human instincts. And that primal instincts that we have, what they call the monkey brain. And this is actually getting there, because all those desires are so human. If you just go around and say, welcome, welcome, welcome this, or let go and let go and let go of this, people look at you and say, but what are you talking about? This is what it is to be human.
Well, yes, but most of us are fast asleep still. And the point is that we need to wake up to become conscious.
That's what I realized. That's what becoming conscious is about. It's not just, it's just not baby things.
No, it isn't. It's hard. Yes, you're right. Thank you, Cornelia.
May I ask, is there a difference between letting go and ignore the feeling? Because a lot of people struggle letting go hurt feelings or negative feelings. So yeah, what is the difference? Because you can feel, well, I'm just ignoring it, and in some sense, not looking it in the eye by, I'll just let it go.
Yeah, you know, I think it's good to let it go, but I think that when you use the word ignore, it's pretty close to sweeping it under the carpet and repressing it, and one needs to look at it, one needs to feel it, even if you have to go back and do the exercise again, until you've really genuinely let go, you haven't just hidden it away. Thanks, Jaco. Does that make sense?
Does anybody else want to share?
Christine, one of the things that, just to comment, can you hear me? My sound is a bit sometimes up and down. One of the issues that I'm learning and trying to work with is just compassion for myself, and just being really embracing of who I am, what happens. I'm not hard on myself when I fail, or I'm trying not to be, but just say, okay, that's happened, but I can try again. And
Absolutely.
I can try again many, many, many times, but just to be gentle with oneself and just accept that that's the way it is, and I'm going to get there one day. It doesn't matter how long it takes, and I'm just totally accepting unconditionally of myself. Something like that.
Yeah, thank you, Margie. That really is a sort of observing oneself, but observing with compassion, because one does get it wrong time and again. And then one day you catch yourself getting it right, and that's a really joyful day if you notice. If it's just being an observer, not a judge. Thank you.
Was there someone else?
Yeah. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Yeah, I was in the bank for the 50th time, I think, and sitting there feeling this COVID all around me, indoors, a lot of people, and I also felt that I shouldn't be there because the bank had slipped up and I had to go back and so on. Now, I've touched on welcoming prayer during, many times in books and Thomas Keating's lessons. But I obviously slipped up and missed a good opportunity then. So, I was sitting there boiling away, turning around, looking at my watch, trying to get the attention of someone who jumped me in the queue. And it was very tight inside, So how should I have dealt with that?
Well, you were under huge pressure because there was the fear of being in a confined space with COVID all around you, maybe, and your frustration at the inefficiency of the bank. So there were a lot of triggers there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, when you were speaking, it reminded me of when I used to explode at the children when they were younger. And I'd realized now I just walked away from the situation that was annoying me. I don't know whether, you were obviously wanting to get your business done. So maybe walking out wasn't a helpful thing, but it is, in the moment, it's often very difficult to do it.
Yeah, well, now, part of the question, just sorry to carry on, but is if I jumped up and said, I'm going to get some fresh air or get away from all this crowd, I'd lose my spot in the queue, which would have taken me about an hour and a half. So
I realize that.
How do you nip that in the bud when it comes to that boiling over that,
Try to acknowledge what your feelings are, I think, to yourself. I'm feeling fearful because of this confined space. I'm feeling cross with the bank because they've got this wrong. Acknowledge those feelings and try to feel where it is in your body.
Yeah.
Where is it churning around? And breathing is always helpful. I think if one can see something like that, and if you can't get away because you're going to lose your place, which is quite obvious, to try to breathe and let it go that way. But it's difficult, sure.
Yeah, I did say in retrospect, one could sort of go through the motion to the event. That might also help a bit for next.
But I think it's important to feel where your body is reacting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, I'd like to try to respond to Anthony, because I think that's the completely normal, real experience that we have somewhere between 5 and 50 times a day. And I was helped enormously by being guided towards responding to my feelings and emotions as treating them as a voice from within myself. This is actually the real voice. of Bakery sitting here in the bank saying, what the hell, why am I here? And all of that is me. But I am also the Anthony or the Jimmy who's catching myself doing this.
Mm.
And so there is more to me than just the feeling. There's more to me than just the voice that's screaming and shouting. There is also the voice that says, hey, I respect you. You're part of me. You are my history speaking to me in this moment. The question is, do I want simply to repeat that history? Or do I want to hear your voice from within and redirect my life towards something fuller, which emancipates me a bit from this voice of my personal history?
Yeah.
And I found that it developed a little mantra for me, which is welcome. Hello, voices. Hello, hello, hello. You are part of me, but I am not part of you. I have the responsibility of guiding you and choosing for you, because you can no longer choose for yourself, because you are history embodied in me. I have to live this life. I have to make a new choice now, what I'm going to do with this feeling. And all I would say to Anthony is, the fact that you got to the end of the queue means you made the choice of saying, I'm more than this. I can rise above this. And all I can tell those of you who didn't arrive late like me, that's what Joe Biden said in his inaugural address. We have a choice to make. We don't choose our history. We choose what we do with it. And that respecting the voice, because it is the real me, up to date. But now to make a choice.
Thank you. The emancipation would be lovely.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So to add to that for Anthony, is it helpful to go home then and repeat it in a welcome prayer so that you can, it's a practice?
Yeah. So make a practice out of it when you get home. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that constructive?
I think going back.
That would be what I would do, but I don't know if that's like correct.
No, well, no, I don't. I think it's just one needs to give oneself time and practice. So any practice, I think, is helpful. Going over it again, not analyzing it, but feeling it, and
yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
Christine?
Yes.
Hi. Just for my own benefit, I hope there's more than one like I. Could we take the situation referred to by Anthony and go through those 3 steps as he is sitting in the queue?
We could. Okay. So as he was speaking, I was to imagine the situation. You'd like me to do it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, please.
Right. So I think the first thing is to focus what is happening within your body. And some of the things that Anthony said resonated with me. It's hot, so you're feeling uncomfortable from the heat, you're overheated. You're tired probably from the long wait. You're angry. You're feeling this anger with the bank for their inefficiency as you perceive it. And there's the fear of COVID. So I think all of those emotions are somehow expressing themselves in his body, would have expressed themselves somehow in his body. And his job is to feel what is going on in his body. Go to that spot where there's a sharp pain or a churning or a throbbing, and just say, that's what I'm feeling now. This is what I'm feeling, and really let it sink in. That's such a good word. And then say, well, welcome these feelings out, this fear, this discomfort, this anger, and then let it go until the outcome one would like to have, I guess, is to feel quite relaxed standing there and waiting your turn, so that the energy has drained and you've become relaxed. I would guess that's what the letting go would feel like. Does that help?
Thanks very much. Can you also just refer to one of those, what would you say? I let go of my desire for...
I let go of my desire for security and survival. I let go of my desire for power and control. You see, he had no control over that situation. I let go of my desire for esteem and affection. And I let go of my desire to do something about it, to change the situation. So many of us think we can make a plan, we can change the way the queues are working or something, or open the window to get the cool air in, I don't know. But you let go of all of that, and then you're just present with all the discomfort, because we don't choose. We need to let go of our preferences. Richard Raw's always saying that, and the things we like and we don't like. So we just stand there, having let go of all those emotions because we've allowed them their space. We've got in touch with them. I don't know if that helps.
Just one last thing. I think there are many of us who get into a situation where we start panicking because we see that it's not COVID safe. So then we would say, I let go of my desire for safety.
Yes, for your security against the disease, for your survival. Yeah. One has to be sensible, but I think it's letting go of the feelings and the emotions in the body.
And the panic.
Yeah. Which you can feel it bubbling up inside you.
Thanks, Christine.
Christine?
Yes, Cornelia.
I just think it's important that we realize that we let go of desire to change the situation at this moment. And once I get relaxed and get out of that control frustration, then maybe I can make a positive contribution to the situation.
Yeah, thanks, Cornelia. That's true, but it's not reacting out of our emotional programs for happiness, out of our unconscious. Then what you're suggesting is we're making a very conscious decision to change the situation, to do something about it.
I can only make that decision to change after I have accepted.
That's it. That's right.
That is important. As long as I'm frustrated, I should not try and make it a difference. My first priority is to relax and accept.
Thank you.
And what helped me a lot is that someone said, I can feel anger pass through me, but I become not angry. And even if you are afraid of the COVID, you don't react from that out of that fear, but you are aware of it. So you are not become what's the word, onverschillig. You know, you say, okay, I just say go away, but it helps you not to react from out your emotion.
Exactly so, yeah.
If I could just say, because I think Cornelia's point is terribly important, that Cynthia repeats it again and again. Whenever she treats of this in different writings, she makes it clear that welcoming the feeling and accepting and owning, recognizing the feeling has got nothing to do with approving the circumstances which give rise to the feeling.
Yeah.
And that the aim of the exercise is actually to free us to play a conscious role in the circumstances which give rise to the feeling.
Yeah.
And I think Cornelia put her finger on that very importantly.
Yeah, she did.
Okay. If there's nobody else who needs any sharing, I just want to say that I will put this I'll send you all the link to the recording, because I had about 80 names down on the list. So there are a lot of people very interested in this practice, which is fantastic. I will also share the images that I shared on this. Well, I suppose you'll see them, but I can share them as JPEGs as well, so you are aware of that. And also, I've got a little booklet by Cherry Haston that I will send to you. It's very nice, about just more on welcoming, and it might just give you more background, because I just think awareness, it's something we've got to do, but just maybe knowing more about it. But basically, practice is everything. Yeah. So
Thanks,
Christine,
Linda.
thank you so very much for offering to do it and for bringing us all together tonight. Thank you so much to everybody who appeared. So lovely to see you, and pray that you go well between now. Stay healthy and all the rest. God bless, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
God bless and good night. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Thanks.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good
Christine.
night.
Next time I go to the bank, I'll be well equipped. Thank you.